Today's video is a continuation of the Redcat Gen 8 upgrade. I'm John Holmes from Holmes Hobbies, and thanks for tuning in. So what we have here is a slightly modified Gen 8 here. It has things like better tires, it does have an aftermarket ESC, it has some 3D printed goods, but for the most part, this is a stock Scout. But what I do is usually switch out the electronics. I'm not a fan of them. We already have ourselves a slightly stronger servo on there, and I really am not a fan of the stock motor. It's about a 17 turn, I do believe, if my memory serves me correctly. But we're only running it on a 2-cell LiPo right now. So the old adage that I have is volt up and gear down. But sometimes it is better off if you go slower on the motor and also up your voltage. A 17 turn really is not going to have good startup control. And the reason for that is that the phase amps are too high for any torque output that you need. And it ends up saturating the brushes. So you get a lot of voltage drop on the brushes. As soon as your load is removed, the motor kind of runs away from you. So instead of using 2-cell LiPo with a 17 turn, what I would prefer to do is use a 27 turn or even a 21 turn 550 motor and run that on 3-cell. A 21 turn is going to be far faster on 3-cell LiPo, so you could gear back down, or you could use a 27 turn motor on 3-cell and have about stock speed as you did before. But you will have better low speed control, your electronics will run cooler, and everything will generally be happier. Since I am doing this install for myself, what I have decided to run is a CrawlMaster Pro 550 10-turn motor. That's going to be about the same speed as a 21 turn 550, but running on 3-cell, it will be faster than stock, or at least as fast as stock, and it will have better low speed control. Not only from it being a CrawlMaster variation, which is a 5-slot, but it is also hand wound, it is also a 550, and we'll also be exchanging the ESC for a BRXL. I think that's all of the alsos that I have for this one, so the only thing for me to do now is to dig in and swap out the electronics. So that's what I'll do. Oh, he's already running XT60s. Sweet, I thought I was gonna have to change plugs. Actually, I'm going to adjust the timing just a wee little bit. I have the power! All right, we're almost done here. I was extra careful with the pinion mesh. You know what they say about pinions? Everybody's got one. That's a dad joke. Nobody's gonna laugh at that. Except for me. Let's see if I can get this back together. So really, I think I'm gonna just swap out the motor. I have changed my mind momentarily. I can always change my mind again. But I'm going to see how this Hobby Wing Quick Run 1060 does with the stock radio with low speed control. I know that it's not as good as the BRXL, but let's just see how good it can be. Let's throw a nice motor on there with a cheap radio and 3-cell and see just how good low speed control can be. And if it's not good, then next up we shall change it out. But for now, just a better motor. For now. Now, the big question, is this rig forwards or reverse rotation? I looked at the pinion, everyone has one, and it appeared as though this was a reverse rotation installation. So maybe it is. Ooh, that's still warm. Forgot to turn off my soldering iron. Pro tip, always turn off your soldering iron when you're done working. Pro tip. And then we find our on-off switch hiding on this radio somewhere. Hey, it's underneath this little door. Do we still have batteries in it? Oh, we don't. We stole the batteries for something else. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. And I've already lost the battery door. You know, pretty typical for me. I have wrecked this surface working, honestly. There we go. We are on. We'll just plug this in. It didn't run away from us. And let's see what forwards does. It goes backwards. So, this is an easy fix. I set the timing at 0 degrees since this is a rebuildable, adjustable timing motor, so that all I needed to do was swap my power leads. So we swap our power leads backwards and forwards, and there we go. I am pretty much ready to go now. So I'm gonna bring this 2-cell battery outside with me. We're gonna see how it performs with the 2-cell. Then I'm gonna throw a 3-cell in there and see how much better I like it. So see you outside. Alrighty, so we got the motor switched out this time. I chose a CrawlMaster Pro 10 turn, and it was a pretty easy install. I did have to drop the servo down to get that in, but overall, not so bad actually. It was a lot easier than working on the Wraith last time, to tell you the truth. So right now we're still running on 2-cell LiPo, and this motor is about the speed of like a 21 turn, 550, a normal 21 turn. This is a 10 turn, but it's a 5-slot. So let's just take a look at the wheel speed. This is stock gearing. This is running on 2-cell. And honestly, this is plenty fast. For the average person on a trail, it's a lot faster than I can walk right now. And as long as you have enough wheel speed to bump over an object, I feel it's, you know, it's enough. It's certainly enough. We're gonna hit a little different stretcher rock this time. And let's just take a look at the new low speed control. So the ESC does have a little bit more room on the bottom end than the motor needs to start up, but it's still just a teeny bit more jerky than going to a nicer ESC. But what I'm noticing versus the stock motor is that it's not unloading nearly as much when it gets over an object. It's a lot easier to control, and a lot of that is being a CrawlMaster, and a lot of that is also being not too fast of a motor, because if you get too fast of a motor, like I said earlier, you just can't quite get good low speed control, and it's because of the brushes. There's just no way around it. So going to a slower motor always helps. And what I'm going to do to get my wheel speed back after I give this a little bit of wheel time is try it on 3-cell and just see how it does. But this is stock radio, and this is a Quick Run 1060 ESC, which is not the best ESC. But I'm digging the way that this drives. Honestly, I would be more or less satisfied with this system. More or less. Yeah, very tractable, easy to control. Not a problem. We'll just go ahead and switch out the battery, get ourselves a little faster. Because everybody needs some wheel speed sometimes. And this is an aftermarket tray that the owner of this printed out. I probably designed it as well, because he's a rad dude like that. So now I'm going to throw in this Helios RC 3500 3S pack. And let's see, is that going to reach? Yeah, that should reach. We'll do it. Just tuck this right under there. Let's tuck it right in, boys. Tuck it right in. Boys, boys, boys. 1, 2, 3. Arm. There we go. Body's in. She's ready to go. Now let's see first off how our low speed control fared. It does still work. She's a little more touchy. Now this would be the difference between a nicer ESC like the BRXL and a non-programmable like this 1060 or even the 1080, which doesn't have throttle curves. I could dial this out a little better if I had throttle curves available on the ESC. But this is still tractable enough, especially considering that we're probably going to have slightly stupid wheel speed. Yeah, that's plenty fast. Plenty fast. Just bounding. And how about that drag brake? It's a hand wound motor. It's going to have nice drag brake. So let's see what we can do over here. This can be a pretty tough climb. And I must say I am still pretty impressed with the capability of this guy. Of course, it does have a little tummy tuck underneath with the printed skid. It does have nicer tires, and that makes a lot of difference. But for being a stock rig with a 3-link on it, I am quite pleased. It's just more predictable than I thought that it would be. Especially for having such a big body. Uh-oh. But it's predictable enough that I was able to catch it without rolling over. Oh, and I jinxed myself. And since this is not my body, I'm not gonna drive it like I normally do and just self-ride it. Oh, I better flip that mirror out so we don't get pulled over. Because you know in Missouri, you gotta have mirrors on your truck. There we are, that's the hook, that's the spot. We need just enough wheel speed to get past that breakover. So let's give it just a little bump. We need a little better driving along with that bump. So let's give it a shot. Oh, we're almost there. This is the hardest climb in my backyard section by far. And for a stock rig to be able to even get past this, there we go. It is, honestly, it really speaks to the suspension geometry on this rig, because most rigs, even modified rigs, can't make that climb. That's usually only 2.2 rigs making that climb, or 1.9 rigs that are really built up and light, honestly. So y'all saw that little oopsie there, and the rig did not tip over. The center of gravity for being a big body is still surprisingly low. Now this is where running 3-cell might come in handy. I don't think I'd actually need all the wheel speed. We could probably get past this on a 2-cell, but there's just not quite enough traction. The rear driver's side is kind of getting up to a little ledge and just not wanting to bite. So you can see what's holding up over here is that we're kind of on the bottom of a ledge there, so I'm gonna have to get the rig in a different spot to bite. If I can manage to get those top tires up. Oh boy. Oh, what a stable rig though. So predictable. I'm liking this Gen 8 more and more, honestly, the more that I drive it. But yeah, we just need to bump past that. So let's do it. Let's give her just a teeny. There we go. That's all you need. That's when wheel speed comes in handy on a crawler. Some people are really about that low crawl 55 turn motor running on 0-cell LiPo, and I like a little bit more wheel speed myself. My personal preference as a crawling snob. Oh, is she gonna pull through? Oh, that's a tough one. It's one-wheel drive right now, bud. Yeah, for being a scale rig, I would not hesitate to recommend this to anybody. And doesn't she look nice creeping through the rocks? Nice and controlled with that CrawlMaster. That's why I tend to focus on the CrawlMaster for my own rigs. I love how they operate. I just love that tractable low speed control. preferably in a hand wound for myself. The hand wounds are a lot more torque density, a lot easier to control. But of course, I do know a guy that builds them, so I kind of get the good deal on them. So for me to run a hand wound on all my rigs isn't that, you know, it's not that much for me to just make one myself. All right, we're high centered. All right, we're gonna have to use a little bit of wheel speed to rock it back and forth, and there we go. Another reason that wheel speed is good to have. And I really feel that there's not a whole lot more to talk about. I am enjoying the way the rig drives, of course, as I've talked about. It's just a lot more predictable than what I thought it would be for how big it is and for having the torque twist. I definitely like switching out the motor, that 17 turn, although some people may argue that it's not the motor's fault, it's the ESC and the radio's fault. You just can't use a brush motor that speed and expect to retain low speed control without having it run away when it unloads on an object, and that's just how brushes work, unfortunately. Brushed motors or brushless motors will also do the same when they get too fast, but we have a little bit more overhead. On a brush motor, about a 2100 kV equivalent is about as fast as we can get, whereas on a brushless we can go up to about 2700 kV because we don't have those brushes in the way, causing that poopy kind of feeling, that soft, spongy throttle feeling that the brushes do contribute to. So maybe y'all switched out the motor on your rigs. Let me know in the comments what you like or even don't like. If you switched something out and you didn't like it as much as the stock motor, let me know in the comments. I'd like to see what y'all are running in your rigs. And if you do have any other questions, feel free to comment down below. Thanks for tuning in. Hope this helped out. Have a good day.